Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to the ECM Podcast. I'm Caroline Fontagneux, and I'm very happy to host this series that will take you behind the scenes of new music on ECM Records. In this new episode, I'm meeting trumpet player, band leader, and composer Mathias Eick. For this interview, Mathias in Oslo and me in Brooklyn met virtually to discuss his latest ECM record produced by Manfred Eicher, When We Leave. Mathias talks about his influences, his tracks' titles, his band, and the art of goodbye. First of all, I wanted to know how Mathias Eick was feeling about his own music months after the release.
It's like it's a part of me. I'm just so happy that I with the music, that a part of me is able to open emotional rooms at other people. I mean, this is instrumental music, so everything has to kind of happen within yourself. It's no lyrics to be there to open up whatever emotional rooms or things going on that's going to happen inside you, the listener. So in that way, it's a bit challenging, but that's my main goal to write music. That's, of course, it's just like a part of me being able to do this to people, which is mostly the people doing most of the work themselves. But I'm the one who's happy to be there to open up these rooms. So the one thing I can help with is then the titles of the songs, and also the title of the album, and hopefully people get some kind of direction through the titles, and also that it gives people some kind of springboard to start and kind of an emotional journey listening to the music. I mean, I didn't quite answer your question, but
You did. It's fine.
Yeah, but
That's interesting. I mean, the titles, it's definitely a big part of, I mean, it's part of your musical concept for a long time now, but it just also, I like this idea of the title being some kind of, because it's the only word that's around your music. So yes. I like that you see it as some kind of a guide, an emotional guide. Would you see it like this? Would you say that it's just a way for the listener to sit, look at the title and be like, okay, I'm going to be loving now. I'm going to be begging now. I'm going to be, caring. Like, is it what you want, where you want them to go? Or is it just a suggestion?
It's a suggestion. Absolutely. It is. And I, like I said, it's kind of a springboard. And if you get some associations to those words, or, I mean, these titles means a lot to me, but it's different from album to album how I do it. If I start with like having the titles early on, or if I connect the titles with the music later on. And with this project, it was kind of a combination. So yeah, I earlier on when I wrote music, it was like, yeah, this song reminds me of children. Let's call the song Children. And this song was written in Oslo. Let's call the song Oslo. And this song was written in Williamsburg. Let's call it Williamsburg. But I've grown a little bit older, and right at this album, I just wanted to make it a little bit different in a way. But I guess, like in the old days, it serves the same purpose in a way, and it's just like getting along emotionally with the audience in some kind of way.
Can we talk about the title of the album? Tell me about it.
Yeah, usually when I make a new album, I try to release a new album every third year. That's my goal. And I try to find a new narrative, find a new headline for writing the music, and also all the titles. And this time it's kind of difficult because I didn't have any narrative from the start, so I just started writing music whenever I was inspired. And I started kind of collecting melodies and collecting harmonies. Then came COVID and the coronavirus, and kind of put us in a really strange situation, because someone really close to me got really, really ill, and it wasn't corona virus. It wasn't the virus. It was another disease, and it made me think so much about the situations in life where we have to say goodbye to someone we love, or we have to say goodbye to the teacher we've been with for many, many years, or we have to say goodbye to the neighbor and meet the neighbor the day after. All of these goodbyes are kind of related in some way, and it works around in the same emotional area, but in different parts of this area. And so I thought maybe if I I didn't hear that much music kind of problemizing, or how you should call it, or trying to dig into these areas of life, or this, at least not instrumental music. So I tried to open that door within myself, and the first picture I got was when me and my father, every fall we would go on a vacation to Denmark and to Germany, and my mother would stay home because she had to work. Every time I said goodbye to her on these fall holidays, she would stand on the stairs to our house and she would smile, but there was a little tear in her eye. And I had to grow older and kind of have kids myself to understand that tear in the eye. That saying goodbye and knowing that your son and your husband is going to have a good time, it's not just about happiness. It's, of course, a lot of other emotions as well. It's she's gone, it's longing, and it's maybe she was alone, and maybe she was worrying about what was going to happen. A lot of these things going on in that one tear. So when I kind of discovered that within me I had so many experiences by saying goodbye and leaving someone, and someone leaving me, and someone leaving the world, or someone just leaving for a coffee. I mean, in some strange way they're all related. So that became the working title, and then it became the final title for the album and for the project.
I want to talk a little bit about the band. I mean, it's a lineup. It's a group of people close to your heart. Yeah. I want to take a second to talk about Håkon Aase. Tell me about your relationship with him.
I love him, and I love him from the first time I heard him, and he was like in his mid-20s. He was like, or maybe 24, 25 years old. And I was actually out scouting, looking for a violin player for the band. So I started going to all these different concerts in Oslo, and I started checking out music online and trying to find a violin player, because Gjermund Larsen, the guy who was playing violin on Midwest, he told me right away that he only had the possibility of playing on the album, not doing live gigs. And Gjermund, he's kind of considered the best folk music player on violin in Norway. And he composes music all the time, and he's a great artist. And also it was a huge honor to have him on the album. But then going on the road, I needed a violin player, and then I went to a concert here in Oslo. It was a piano trio with Helge, with Håkon on the violin, and the piano player. He is a teacher at the music school here in Oslo, and he said, I've started this band now because I have to get this violin player in my band before someone else discovers him. And then I had this wonderful feeling that, okay, but it's gonna happen tonight because I just discovered him. So after the gig, and he played wonderful. It was like yeah, this is it. I don't have to search anymore. So I went up to him and I asked him if he wanted to join my band. And he kind of, yeah, of course I want to do that. Yeah.
He knew you?
Yeah. And many years after, he told me that he was so happy that he just went home and drank a whole bottle of red wine by himself. So he had to celebrate, but he didn't dare to celebrate like among this band that he was playing with. So yeah,
I like that.
And he had not been touring much in Europe or at all, I guess, because he was still a student. So the first thing we did was like the next week we went to the Netherlands and we did many concerts, and then Germany, and okay, the tour just went on. He just played amazing from the first notes. So there was no kind of doubt in my soul that the next album he would play on the next album, and also the album after that. And I try to make a new direction every album, or like I told you earlier, the a narrative, and also sometimes change the lineup of the band. But now when I was making When We Leave, I felt that the lineup in Ravensburg was such a good lineup, so I had to use it for another album as well.
Would you say that When We Leave is the prolongation of Ravensburg, or?
Yes, it's kind of Ravensburg too. It is, but I mean, Håkon and I, the violin player, and I, we found each other in such a wonderful way, in way of communicating and phrasing, and I'm listening to his phrasing and he's listening to mine, and also when we improvise, we're able to improvise at the same time and just follow each other's ideas, and yeah, he's a wonderful guy.
Your pairing is just it's so genuine. There's something so natural but also genuine, like you feel that nothing is forced. And in the voice, in the dialogue, you know, like even if you're playing the same phrase on the same note and the same, you know, unison, there's something as a dialogue that takes you, you know, that's very generous for the listener.
Yeah, thanks.
And I think that's also one of the good things about bringing some kind of folk aspect to this project. Those are songs, even if there's no lyrics, no words. It takes you somewhere for a certain amount of time. It tells you a story, whether you want it or not. And I think that your voices are going so well together.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. And I mean, it kind of started. I mean, the things you're talking about with the storytelling aspect, and also the sound with the violin and the folk aspect. It started in the Midwest album in 2015, and of course everything comes from a place, and to me at that time it was about a tour we did in the United States with Jagged Jazzist, another band I was playing in at that time in the earlier days. And we did a large tour, and we were traveling across the continent in Canada from east to west, and then we went down to States, and we went to San Francisco and LA, and then we went all the way over to the East Coast, and realizing how large this continent is, and realizing how many Norwegian surnames we would meet in the Midwest. and we were watching the movie, actually the movie Fargo by the Coen brothers at that time, and we were listening to the main theme, which is The Lost Sheep. And when I got back to Norway, I realized that this song that Carter Burwell, the guy who did the score for Fargo, he had found this song, and it's an old Norwegian folk hymn, and he made it into the main theme of Fargo, and then it all kind of fit together really nice.
Wow, it's very serendipity. I like it.
It is, and to me that sparked the whole creativity of making the album Midwest. And it also sparked the idea of bringing in the violin as a folk music influence.
Can you tell me a little bit about your relationship with ECM? I mean, you have a long story, like a long relationship with ECM.
Yes, suddenly it's long, yeah.
Even before, recording your own project under your name, you've been recording a few things. And were you listening to ECM music, ECM albums? Like, what's your relationship with the label?
It's one of the most beautiful questions to get, actually, because when I was a kid, I grew up in a house full of music from the 50s and the 40s. And my father was listening to old traditional jazz all the time. So that was my upbringing. And we listened to some old Chet Baker as well, but that was kind of the most modern music, maybe. And I'm the youngest of 5 children. When the oldest one is 15 years older than me. So when he went on to study music, he was playing the double bass, and he still is. He brought home some modern music, and he brought home Pat Metheny and Kenny Wheeler, Keith Jarrett, Teddy Ripdahl, Jan Garbarek. And I realized one thing, that on most of these albums, or at least like 70% of the albums he brought home, there was 3 letters on the cover, and it said ECM. And then I asked him about it, and he told me that was like the record label. So I had this childhood idea that one time I would record for that label, and then I realized that Pat Metheny, he was 23 years old, and Jacob Ozurius was 26 when they released Bright Size Life. And then I made this kind of hairy goal to try and be on ECM label before I was 23. So for some, I can talk on and on for hours about this, but a long story short, suddenly I found myself in the studio with Manfred Eicher and Jan Erik Kongshaug, and it was Jacob Young's